So the CRL had another meeting before we closed 2025 to clarify their whole regulation seeking and the whole body, the whole project, the whole thing that they want to do with that. And so they came to give a question that they were saying we should answer. So let's go listen to what the question is, and we will be back to give an answer for what we think they are not understanding.
From Africa referred to. The issue of the pushback, I've always said, what are they afraid of? You know, they need to tell us what is your worst fear here when your peers will determine what is right behavior and what is unacceptable behavior. So I would ask the media to go and ask the pushback people, what is your worst fear? What's the worst thing that can happen here? When people say our religious rights, freedom of religion will be affected. Why in South Africa here we've got a very good constitution. But even that constitution says enjoy your religious rights, your cultural rights, your linguistic rights.
Okay, so it says what is the pushback, you know, and if our peers are going to be the ones that are saying what is ethical behavior, what is our problem? Why don't we just accept that? So let me see if I can explain that. You see, faith is a very complex thing. Faith is a complex thing. There are certain things within what I structure as ethical, as a person who is a Mzalwadi, and I can understand it from certain other groups which are classified under that. But there are certain things that I would not see as ethical. For example, the Shembe movement engages in marriages, and there is also teen marriages. To me, that's unethical. To me, that's unethical. And so, do you see, to them, they say to themselves, the age of consent is low in this country, so that's fine. To me, that's unethical, right? To me, a child should be a child. Allow them to grow in that childhood, and then when they are ready to make those particular decisions, they do so. But this whole thing of getting married to kids and whatnot, that's not the right thingy, right? And so, you see, on those certain things, we will not agree. Right? We will not agree on those things. Why? Because what is ethical toward the other one can twist and make up their own rules concerning. So, what is it that the church is saying, particularly concerning this whole thing of trying to regulate the church? And it's only Pan-Africanists, so people like your Mapongas and so forth, people who are not Christian, are the ones who are telling you to regulate us. It's nice talking points for them. Now, what is it that the church is saying? There is already governing bodies that deal with the criminal behaviors that these people do. You don't need one that's going to put forward for us what is ethical. What the law deems unethical, that's it. We draw the line right there. It's as simple as that. You do not need to regulate the church separately. We are governed by the same rules and the same laws, right? Let's stick to that. If it is financial fraud, it shouldn't be the church that is blamed for that. Oh, you see church people, they're eating money. No, there are certain churches that are doing that. You have the hawks, you have bodies that are relative within a regulative thingy, which can deal with those particular things. You have these churches that are rising and are now making kids to quit school. Yeah, you deal with those child protective services. There are governing bodies that are already there. We don't need a CRL. CRL is to protection of the rights. It's not an authorization for the rights. You need bodies that are currently already there that can do that can handle that, and take it as criminal whenever a person breaks the laws. What the laws say, we don't need to establish new rules now for church, because this whole conversation should not even be there. The point of it all is there is a law in the country that already governs how all of us live. We live by those standards to the church and across the board. Simple. Cut straight. The church does not need special rules. Because why? You have Shembe people, number of Shembe people in the committee over there, under the CRL, that whole CRL commission. Are they going to say for me what is ethical? Them mandams got issues by themselves. They got that over there. So what we need is what the law already is there that allows those particular, the structures that are there already exist. We don't need a special law. We don't need because why? The problem is with this particular whole thing of looking for new government system in order to do this, or building new government system in order for us to do this. Like you see, the Madlanga Commission is only creating of a report, and then they go back and make recommendations, isn't it? People move forward, they know how to go forward with whatever has been stated there. It's not this. What is being done by the CRL with this whole thing of trying to regulate the church, it's a whole different thing. Because what it seeks to do is to monitor the church. Last, they said that every single church, there's no church that can function without being registered and all those things. To ask a church to register, you have to first have the church. Let's establish what is a church, because now, before you know it, we will now have problems with home cells. Home cells will now start having problems. And also, this whole thing of having the members known, what's that? That's a breach of privacy. Why should the state know what church I belong to? Within the thingy that we register every year, whatever, when you go to put up your thingy, it asks you what religion you are, Islam or Christian. You just say Christian. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know what branch of church I belong to. That is a breach of privacy. It can create a very dangerous environment for people. Why do you want that? The CRL went as far as saying it will be criminal for a church to think, now we have a problem now. Because now we are establishing rules specifically that will affect people that are law-abiding. Criminals know how to get away with the rules. It's the law-abiding people that these things seem to make life difficult for. So the point is this: there is already government systems that are already there. Those government systems are the ones that should answer. How then do we watch over these things? You don't need a new committee that's going to tell the church new rules, committees, ethics. No, you don't need that. You already have systems in the country that tell you that. So I hope that clarifies. I hope that clarifies. We don't need. And why make it more difficult for Christians? Because that's what those laws are going to do. We already have the laws of the country, and now we must abide by the laws of the ethical boards. What does that even look like? And by the way, I heard people were making a comparison with things like, the doctors belong to a certain body of things. Listen, theological positions are not something you can go around typing and giving credit scores on. Theological positions differ based on whom you learn from and what. So now, if there is someone grading and saying, yes, this person deserves to be a pastor, are you going to first go and study under the person whom I learned under in order for me to have the right to teach? This is where China is right now, by the way. China has put forward rules to restrict preaching for people from even preaching online. Because now they can't teach if they don't hold a certificate. They're still working on those type of laws. This is where we are going if we allow this pursuit of the CRL. And so the answer is this: we don't need. There's nothing to hide. We already have a governing bodies, the SAPS, the Hawks, the what. You already have all these investigative intelligence bodies that already deal with these things, crimes, reporting of crimes, and all these things. What you can put forward that might come to that thingy is possibly access from governing bodies to the relevant authorities. That's what you can put forward. Should a case be reported to the church board, it should go to the SAPS. Because things get reported there and they never go to the SAPS. They dash them down. You've heard cases. When our bishop was up, you heard cases with certain church organizations. Things will come to the church board. It never goes to thingy. They just sweep it under the rug. You see, you could create access in those particular areas. But to try and have a different church organization govern the other church organization, you're going to create problems. I can tell you right now, 90% of pastors in South Africa teach a completely different gospel to the one that I preach. So now, would they, if they were sitting at the governing body, would they say that, Ricky can teach the gospel? No, they won't. Because they don't recognize ethically, ethically it's wrong. Then what? It creates problems. It creates problems. They already and this thing that they must be trained first. But I think, okay, what if your training was you already received training? What other training? Who's going to train you? CRL? You see, now we create other problems now because now, you see, you want to create other ideas of tendering. Leave these things. There's no such. That's what it's going to turn into. It's going to turn into bodies that are going to be supposedly giving education for pastors. It's just people creating salaries for themselves. We don't need that. This is faith we are talking about. The currently existing governing bodies are the ones that should govern over the church. We don't need more stricter rules by people who we disagree already with in theology. They are going to tell me what I must believe. Like how? There are people that go to church. Now, is that unethical? There are churches that don't believe that. Yeah, and they can classify it whichever way they classify it, and before you know it, it's unethical. You're only going to create problems. Like I said, yes, there might be a few Christians there who would understand the difference in theological beliefs, but at the end of the day, we don't need that. Faith is a matter of conviction. So how are we now going to take conviction and put it through school? You see, some things just don't make sense. How do you take a matter of conviction and put it through? It doesn't work. This is just going to make things more difficult, unnecessarily so. Those are my thoughts. Y'all tell me your thoughts down in the comment section. You want answers of why we are not afraid. There are already currently existing bodies that already govern all of us. Those are sufficient enough.